Hare Krishna, everybody, and welcome to our live stream with Sri Radha Govinda. This is a follow-up of Sadhvi Sangha's online retreat that we had last week, so I welcome you all. Thank you for tuning in and listening to our session with Sri Radha Govinda. I will just read you a quick bio of Sri Radha, and then we can get into our topic, QueenTessential, becoming the woman you are. No, to become the best woman you can be, right? I hope I didn't mess up the title. So, Sri Radha Govinda, also known as Srilakshmi Oppecini, is an author and motivational speaker. She's the director of Bhakti Marriage System. You can see the website is attached on the YouTube link, which is a division of the Congregational Development Ministry. She's the president of MAPS, Mayapur Astrologic and Psychosomatic Sacred Sciences. I'll show you the website just now. A psychotherapist, a Vedic Astrologer, palm analyst, and a personality analyst. She writes courses, books, and blogs on premarital and marital topics. She lectures on Srimad Bhagavatam very regularly. I've even heard her in Cape Town. She studied Vedic astrology under her astrology guru Koilnambi, Sampath Kumar in Melkote, India. She studied psychology in Germany and France. She holds a degree in theology and holds a Bhakti Vaibhava degree. She also speaks 9 languages, would you believe, and travels around the world and has given seminars and courses in more than 25 countries. I'm just going to show you the website that we have of MAPS. Quickly just open it up for you. You can also check it out yourself. She's authored many amazing books. As you can see, this is her website, MAPS. And the books, Are You Ready for Saturn? Then my favorite, How to Mess Up Your Life with Astrology, Awaken Your Spiritual Destiny. And I think there's 2 recent books, The Wild Side, Inside, which is going beyond the influence of Rahu and Ketu. Most of us fear Rahu and Ketu, but I think the way she describes it in this book is really a different perspective on how to appreciate both of these planets in our charts or in our lives. And then the other book that she's written is Getting Ready for Marriage, but I don't see a link on the website, but you can always check it out later. Then we also have her on a YouTube channel. You can subscribe to this and follow her with her Bhakti Marriage course. This is the Bhakti Marriage course here. She's got videos about how to prepare yourself, premarital courses, premarital counseling, really essential before you choose your partner. And then the last website I just want to show you. It's also another YouTube channel I found very helpful. It's also her Sri Radha Govinda one, Awaken Your Spiritual Destiny. Also many videos on what she's working on. But today we have the great opportunity of hearing her speak on this new topic, QueenTessential. I really love this title, QueenTessential. I'm very interested to hear why Sri Radha has chosen this title and why you've chosen to work on this project. What does it mean to you, and how did you get into this? I also just want to apologize for our stream yesterday. We had some technical difficulties and we lost a lot of the stream, so apologies on that. We're going to recap a lot of what Sri Radha spoke about yesterday. So please post your questions here on YouTube and on Facebook. We're going to be covering it in between the talk and at the end as well. So Sri Radha, please tell us, why did you choose this title or this project, QueenTessential?
See, within our organization, ISKCON, we have many qualified men who give wonderful classes about different aspects of Krishna consciousness, and everything kind of emphasizes a lot on the qualities of great acharyas who are male, and there is a lot of need to focus or to see the perspective, the heart of the woman, to see the examples of women in our sampradaya, in our history, in Krishna consciousness, because there is Krishna consciousness even much before ISKCON. And so there is a lot of wonderful insights to take a look into. And even in my own personal experience, I have seen the whole perspective about women from external point of view, and also how women think about themselves. A lot of times we don't really value womanhood enough. We don't actually feel precious enough to see ourselves as souls who are different, unique. And so this QueenTessential is the essential principles for a successful woman in spiritual life. So this, again, another important theme of this QueenTessential project is a lot of times we get overwhelmed by the emotional trauma and difficulties we go through. Like even in we have been discussing in our Vaishnavi retreat the different angles of how women are perceived and how we feel about it. So I thought this QueenTessential is actually a vision, or like wearing those lenses to see what women can do and what women have been doing since beginning of time to be the best they can be. The women who were glorified throughout the history are women who went through difficult situations. They were not really, let's say, had the perfect family, the perfect husband, the perfect children. There was no chaos, no difficulties. It's not that those are the women who are glorified, right? It were the women who were abused or in difficulty and in great unfair situations. So those are the women who actually came out shining. And that's what we've been discussing also yesterday about these Panchakanyas. This is like the famous 5 women that are glorified for their qualities. So yeah, one of the main reasons for this project QueenTessential was to focus just for the Vaishnavis and to do things, to produce courses and seminars and books and booklets and novels and a perspective, an angle to see the heart of the woman, not just what the men or the world says the women should do this, but how a woman should see herself and how we can succeed and thrive and not just think of surviving. I hope that gives you an idea of the broad perspective of this.
Yeah, I really love that you mentioned these topics about the Pancha. How do you say it again?
Panchakanya.
Kanya, sorry. Panchakanya. Yeah, we'll go over that again because I know you covered it yesterday, but yeah, the presentation got lost. Yeah. And a lot of the Vaishnavis from Sadhvi Sangha that when we were watching the online retreat, a lot of questions that came up was a lot of pain and emotional unrest from ISKCON women. I just want to know what's your viewpoint on how to address these issues and how women have struggled so much, I guess, abuse, and I don't know. Most of the questions were very heavily painful. So yeah, thank you for bringing it up. But what is your viewpoint on this?
There are different angles to see this, and also there are different factors that contribute to an abusive situation or an experience that somebody goes through. Like the focus of QueenTessential is to see what is our area of influence and to be the best we can be, and beginning from there. So you can call it like the beginning of womanhood and how we should see ourselves. Because most of the time, like I mentioned earlier, abuse against women and men have existed since time immemorial, from the beginning of time. And yesterday we discussed about whether it was Draupadi, or whether it was Ahalya, or whether it was Mandodari, whether it was Kunti. You can, each of these characters, you can think of so many unfair circumstances they had to go through. And and in my experience as a professionally, in my professional field as a psychotherapist, as an astrologer, it's not really only women who carry this emotional baggage or psychological traumas. It's also men, many men. I think you also, Toshani, as a doctor, you have seen it's not like only women, but yes, women tendentially, we are more vulnerable, we're more sensitive, and therefore we may experience it in a more larger degree, but it's not really women. There are many men also who always complain that they are not treated just and they don't feel that their voice is heard. And I mean, I hear it all the time. So in my opinion, the difficult situations that women are faced within the movement or in general as well. It's also the factor is we have our own karma, individual karma, because it's not that every woman is having the same situation, or every man is abusive, or every man is a narcissist, or it's not like that, right? We also have had examples of Shurpanaka. Shurpanaka was the devil character in the Ramayana, where we are talking about Ahalya and Sita, right? There is also Shurpanaka, and she was a woman. So we can't really say, oh, women are awesome and men are terrible. We cannot really say that. Nor can we just say all women are like Shurpanaka, who trying to go and seduce Rama and Lakshmana and get her nose cut off. So it's not really black and white about men, women, who is abused more. And there's a whole theory about that Shurpanaka was abused, because Lakshmana was single and she was asking him to marry her. And so some people say, what was wrong with that anyway? Why did he have to cut off her nose? Everyone makes mistake. You see, it's all about perspective sometimes. And so, and there's so many Rakshasis. There's Putana. Even in fact, spiritually speaking, Putana got liberated because just for the fact that she was showing motherly affection, she fed Krishna her breast milk, although it was poison. She got liberated. So Krishna, of course, as mercy of Krishna. But the point I'm trying to make is it's the point of, let me say, the quintessential is to empower the solution and to not empower the problem, to try to see the perspective in which solution can be found on a deeper level, on the Krishna conscious level, and to try to make peace with our karma, to try to make peace with our life and situation, and to not, to get out of that position of being a victim. Because when we take that position of being a victim, we empower the problem. And when we take the position of wanting to work on ourselves, then we are empowering the solution, because we want to become the best version of ourselves that Krishna can love. And therefore, we are not focusing on what men should do or men should not do. So I think these topics are something very essential to be discussed among women, how we are seeing ourselves. Because most of the time when people complain about, oh, my voice is not heard, I mean, this is my realization whenever I have that complaint. When I take a deeper look, I realize the person who doesn't value my voice enough is me.
Yeah. It's a painful reality.
It's like the question we were discussing earlier, right? Sometimes we walk into a meeting and there are a lot of men and few women, or maybe we are the only woman there. And we can think, we give ideas, and it's not accepted in the beginning. And then some other man comes up with the exact same idea after 10 minutes. And then people go, yay, that's such a wonderful idea. Nobody thought about it. Oh, you're so awesome. So the point is, this is the material world, okay? This is the world. That's how it's going to be. But how are we going to react, right? One side, the unhealthy side of the woman, like again, the emotional baggage, if we have been treated badly in the childhood, and we have this baggage, psychologically, we don't really love ourselves. We don't think we are precious. We have negativities about ourselves. Then we sit in this situation and we look at that fellow, we look at the group and say, these guys suck. These people don't know what they're doing, and this is so unfair. And we can become frustrated. We can even become depressed, or we can become aggressive, right? There are so many options. You can write a whole novel about what happens after that. And what happened before the point that this girl arrives in the room, right? There's so much baggage we carry. But the best way to react is like these Panchakanyas, all these great women who are glorified. What would they do? They would wear a smile on their face, which is like, you boys need to grow up. One day you'll grow up. I forgive you. And make peace with that. Make peace with that situation and say, at least the good idea that I had in mind is going to be executed. Who cares if it's coming from me or it's just coming from some other man? As long as the idea gets executed, I'm happy.
Wow, that's a very, very different way of looking at things. I mean, it takes a lot of courage to let someone else I mean, I know for me, when I submit an idea or a proposal and it gets smashed down, and then a few minutes later it gets presented by a male counterpart who's equally as qualified as myself, and then the proposal gets pitched or it gets taken up, and it's always a better idea coming from a male. So I'm learning this art of being a queen. Hopefully by the end of this seminar, I'll be more receptive to just allowing that the proposal is happening, or that the idea is going out, and that, you know, I don't have to take credit for it. One more
point about dependence. We are thinking, no, we don't want to be dependent. I want to be independent thinker. But the moment we are experiencing this gap of not, why are we dependent on their acceptance of whether it's coming from us or not? So there is dependency there. And if you actually see, I mean, currently, right, just see the world situation right now, all the countries, Finland, Norway, New Zealand, what are the countries? I was just thinking, Taiwan, all these different countries where there's women leadership, right, where there is a women as a president, they're doing very well in how they're reacting to the coronavirus situation. Because the women are not concerned about the political agenda. They're only thinking of protecting, preserving, nurturing the people, and they're taking right action. And look at America, right? So much male ego, so much male ego, fighting, you know, Democrats and you know, all this mess. But when a woman is there, naturally, she's just thinking, let's get the work done. She doesn't care who does the pots, who does the cleaning, who does the laundry, as long as it's done. That's mother. That's the queen. Wow. She just wants things to be done. She doesn't want to take the credit. And that's why we have more male people in the prison than women, because women think before acting. You know, 90% of the prison population is men. You know that?
That's very true.
So we are more intelligent in that sense. We can, you know, temperance, we can restrain ourselves and use that energy to just smile and say, the baby's kicking me. The baby may be 30 years, 40 years older than us, who's been in the Krishna consciousness movement for way longer than us, chanting Hare Krishna many more years than us, but may act like a baby who's kicking the mother. And we just smile and say, he'll grow up one day.
Okay. One more question that that came up during the retreat is that us women, and we react very differently. We have, our emotions are more, how do you say, out there, and we express it more. And men don't really have the same, I guess, the way they present their emotions, or the way they feel it, at least. Maybe you could talk about the differences of how a man and a woman react to emotions or present their emotions.
Actually, this is one of the research I'm doing currently about this male-female reactions in Parashara Muni. I was just reading that. Let me just open that file. I have it right here. Parashara Muni is a great sage who wrote many astrological texts, and he especially wrote also about this man-woman psychology, how we react to things. And few things I just want to mention that I find it very, very relevant. Okay, first of all, his main point is that the ability to lead or the ability to have good relationships, it doesn't depend on the, it doesn't only depend on the compatibility or their particular yogas. It depends on their capacity to manifest their masculine or feminine energies. And he explains about what purely masculine means and what purely feminine means. So one thing about masculine is sun is representing masculine, and it's square built. And square built is all about steadfast, consistent in thought and in action. And they have very strong sense of self-esteem. They have a very noble sense of self-esteem. And they don't really work towards having security, comfort. That, like I was saying, all these wars that were waged in humanity, all the civil wars, all these things is kind of man mentality, male psychology. Women are like, come on, we need to grow potatoes. Who cares who runs the country? We need to grow potatoes. No, let's focus on that. So women are more focused on the basic essential survival things, and men are just competitive and they just want to wage wars, conquer countries, ego dominated things, right? So they don't care so much about the security aspect, but woman is always thinking of security. Then another very thing about sun is it's very intense. It's purifier, so it burns. It's the quality of intensity. And there is also that anger aspect which comes along with that. They are rational, and this I find very interesting. They are not interested in things that they have very little control over. That's masculine. Like Toshani, we were discussing how when men get into an argument, say they got into an argument yesterday, tomorrow they already forgot who argument, who won, I don't remember. But women, we remember.
Yes,
right?
we remember.
We remember every detail. We remember the emotions. But for a man, if he doesn't have control over somebody else's emotions, for example, he doesn't have control over it. So he doesn't care. That's why we complain about our men, that they don't give attention to our emotions, because they don't have control over our emotions, so they don't care. That's a masculine quality. And they're not very interested in things that they are not very perceptive about. And big thing, they are not interested in the past. Men, I mean, this is like real masculinity or whatever. They are not focused on the past. They're always thinking of future. That's why they don't talk about yesterday. Women, we always go back, kind of like, but that happened. And the man is like, yeah, but what do we do about that? So they are always like focused. And moon is round. So moon is, I mean, you may say sun is also round, but actually the idea of the Parashara Muni, how he describes this, sun is square in the sense of these qualities and all that. So moon is round, which basically makes the woman mentally and emotionally capable of quickly changing directions, moving past, present, future, everywhere. We're everywhere. It's not men. Okay, this Parashara clarifies. He says both men and women have both masculine and feminine qualities. Like, I know men who have way more feminine qualities than many women. And I know women who have a lot of masculine qualities. You see what I'm saying? So we are a mixture, but we need to understand what masculine and feminine means. Then the moon means emotions. Moon is excitable, it's changeable. Moon, it also accepts what is less than desirable, meaning compromise, accepting more. And they are receptive to attracting more inspirations. They are not so action-based, they are more emotions-based. Actually, one quality that he says, Parashara says about women is, he says, they are the feminine energy is lovesick. But masculine is not lovesick. This is the only negative he says. But the main quality of feminine is harmonizing with the whole. Like I mentioned about the politicians who are women, they think of how to solve the overall thing. They're not so focused on the ego. But the masculine is more focused on the ego. So, yeah, I mean, these are like some examples of how, from like a Shastric point of view, how men and women work on the principal level of emotions, why we are different, why we act in that way. But the most important thing is that security. If we are feeling secure about our feminine qualities, we will succeed in the long term. But if we try to take on the masculine role and we also get into that competitive mood, no matter, I mean, no doubt that we are more, whatever you call it, inspired, deep, wise, motherly than men. But if we don't have that restraint, in the long term, we'll get fried, tired. And so sustainability, like to understand what works for us. Like we go into a meeting, we understand what is our weak point. Like my grandmother says, if you stay in a glass house, don't throw stone at the neighbor.
Yes.
So if we have a sensitive mind, better we don't irritate or put ourselves in situations where we'll get agitated. The awareness point.
So I just realized that our Facebook got cut off because we didn't go live at the right time. So I'm just trying to see how to share, just inform them that they can join the YouTube stream. You can continue talking because it'll be recorded on YouTube and I can always share it later. I'm just
can I share my screen so I can go over the...
Sure, I'm gonna. All right, so your screen is there.
Okay. Okay, while you work on the connecting, then I'm going to just explain a little bit what we were talking yesterday and summarize the characters. So yesterday we discussed about these Panchakanya, the 5 maidens of the Hindu epics from the scriptural examples. And they are Ahalya, Draupadi, Kunti, Tara, Mandodari, Tata, Panchakanya, Smare, Nityam, Mahapatakanashanam. So these are the 5 great women, Ahalya, Draupadi, Kunti, Tara, Mandodari. And whenever we remember these great ladies, it is said that all the great sins will be destroyed, and even the seed of wanting to perform sinful actions will also be destroyed. And the first character, the first among the Panchakanyas we discussed is Ahalya, her patience and her austerity. Even though she didn't do any mistake, and it was Indra who disguised himself as Gautama Rishi and came to pollute her, yet she performed patiently and with optimism. She performed tapasya until Lord Ramachandra came and liberated her. There's this beautiful verse in Ramayana that speaks about how he liberated Ahalya, and this is a beautiful verse. How Lord Ram, he not only destroyed demons, but very mercifully, he also saved Ahalya. Ghora tataka ghatakaram, marichadini patakaram, kaushikamakam samrakshakaram, Srimad Ahalyodharakaram, Rama Rama Jaya Raja Ram, Rama Rama Jaya Sita Ram. So this great woman, Ahalya, she got the mercy and benediction of Lord Ram, and she got liberated by the mercy of Lord Ram. And from her, we can learn this optimism of being patiently performing austerities and with optimism wait for the mercy of the Lord. And she wasn't like retaliating, this is not my fault. And she wasn't going on like some, how do you call these, like Me Too movement or whatever, right? Oh, I was also abused. She just said, the Lord has a plan for me, and she waited. Then we have Tara. Tara is another amazing personality. It is described, she was like an amazing advisor. She always was wise and giving advice to all the Vanara Sainya, the monkey soldiers, and she was very good administrator as well. She resolved certain situations and she sacrificed her own comfort in order to bring Lord Ram's glorious services into action. And that's the quality of discrimination, to see when to give power to our higher self and let our higher self triumph, and when to become dependent on the lower self and make decisions that get us more and more into trouble. So Tara is a wonderful example of somebody who gave priority to the higher self, to higher priorities, and without regret, without shame, without guilt, without all those negative baggage. Then the next personality we saw is Mandodari. And Mandodari was a very good example of a woman who is acting with wisdom. And for me, this Mandodari is such an example of stop whining, women. It's a message like, don't say, oh, if only my husband was better, if only my temple president was better, if only I was in a different environment, if only I had more opportunities, if only my voice was heard more. None of that. She had Ravana as her husband, who was so malicious. He was so sinful. He was so atrocious in his attempts to enjoy the material world. And he even tried to steal the goddess of fortune from Lord Ramachandra. He even kidnapped Sita. And yet Mandodari, internally, she was detached from what Ravan was doing, but externally she was performing her duties. Another quality of Mandodari that we can actually learn from is making peace with your destiny. Again, she didn't fight against her own karma. She didn't like curse herself. She kept doing what she could do, and she kept advising Ravana. She kept praying for Ravana. She kept asking everybody's help to like get some good sense into Ravana's mind. So that's another great quality, making peace with our destiny and not whining about it, not blaming ourselves, not blaming others. And Mandodari was detached. She would say, that's another quality, influencing your man with detachment. Because if you or we as women, we are in a position of peace, in a position of detachment, like we're not dependent upon his actions. If he's messing up his life and his job, whatever it is, if we're not affected by it and we're just losing our sense of peace and identity, we cannot help him. But the more we are calm, the more we are like from that power position of deep internal power, then we can give them good advice, good counsel. So that's another lesson that we can learn from Mandodari. This is Sita here, sitting here. He has just kidnapped Sita and everybody is just shocked, and she's very calm and she's advising the husband, let Sita go, you know. You can have any woman in the world, let Sita go. So she wasn't like whining, oh, you don't love me enough, now you want Sita. That was not her style. Her style was wanting the best for the husband, at the same time being detached. Huge thing, huh? It's easy to say, but when we are in the circumstances, very difficult to follow, but life will prepare us. Then we saw the character of Draupadi. This is again another powerful example of someone who didn't whine, she didn't complain, having 5 amazing, powerful husbands, sitting here, seeing her being abused and insulted in the court assembly of all the Kurus and elders. Unimaginable agony, and yet she didn't complain. And there's a verse that describes the austerities of Draupadi and the Pandavas. Airagina maneyolagandu ಪಾಂಡವರನು ಕೊಲ್ಲಬೇಕೆಂದು ದುರುಳ ಕೌರವ ಬಂದು ಅತಿ ಹರುಷದಲ್ಲಿರುತ್ತಿರಲಂದು ಹರಿಕೃಪೆ ಅವರಲ್ಲಿದ್ದ ಕಾರಣ ಘೋರ ದುರಿತ ಬಯಲಾಗುವುದಿಲ್ಲವೇ ಬಂದದ್ದಿಲ್ಲ ಬರಲಿ ಗೋವಿಂದನ ದಯೆ ಒಂದಿರಲಿ. All the austerities of Draupadi, you know, so many austerities the Pandavas had to go through. Again, it's not just the woman, even the Pandavas had to go through so many. But this particular instance is when she takes shelter of Lord Hari. All those atrocities of Duryodhana, who tried to kill them repeatedly from different efforts, to try to burn their palace down, to kick them out on exile by unfair means, to destroy them with this gamble game. All these things did not touch the heart of Draupadi or the Pandavas, because deep in their heart they had the deep sense of detachment and security. They were not dependent on these external position or title of wanting to be like, they were not given the crown of the king, they were kicked out to the forest, but still Yudhishthira Maharaj acted like a king. So the same way we can see, if we have certain qualities, say you're a great manager, you don't necessarily need ISKCON to nourish you, nurture you, and tell you great things and encourage you to become a better manager. My realization has been, come to ISKCON to give and not to receive validation and encouragement and support. It is the family, but when we come into the religious organization, we need to know that it's a hospital where everybody is coming there to get cured. So we cannot expect everybody else to behave in a way that will nurture us. So if we want to have a particular nature quality, let's nourish that, nurture that. But when we come into ISKCON, let the expectation be only to give and not to receive that appreciation or whatever. And that's something we can learn from Draupadi. She always tried to do what Krishna wanted, and she didn't give up. She didn't give up whatsoever. However she was treated, she kept to the Dharma. Then we have Kunti Devi. We discussed a little bit about her experimenting nature when she was young, and she called upon Surya and she got a son, Karna. Then as she had to grow up very fast, And then she became the mother of the Pandavas, and she told the Pandavas to share the wife among the 5 of them. So that can be said as another destiny playing with Kunti Devi, and she again had to accept destiny. And it's not very easy to accept destiny for certain choices that we make and the difficulties that we go through after that. But Kunti Devi is that example of taking responsibility and making peace again with the destiny. And Kunti Devi had to go through a lot, but one great quality about her was that ability to manage, not depending on external circumstances, but to manage what is in her control. This is something we can learn from Kunti Devi. She was constantly in uncertain circumstances, from the first baby that was born up to the husband's death, to all the children also not being born from the husband but from the devatas. Everything in her life was very unprecedented. Like right now in the coronavirus time, we are all thinking, oh, unprecedented times, I didn't expect this, why is this happening? I think this is the biggest lesson we can learn from Kunti Devi, is to not think that anything is unprecedented, but to know that padam padam yat vipadam natesham, this material world is full of miseries, and we will always have dangers, and dukkhalayam ashashvatam. The miseries will be temporary, but this world will always be full of miseries. So not to become too surprised about calamities, but rather, like Kunti Devi, manage what is in our control. What is in our control is our heart, is our thoughts, is our mind, which direction it flows. So Kunti Devi, she says, may my mind always flow towards you, Krishna, and flow away from all the distractions. So as long as the situation is going to help us towards that, that's what we should wish for. So she's a great example. So Toshani, how are we doing with the connection with our audience?
So we're live on Facebook now. I just apologize to people who missed the first, 25 minutes. It's on YouTube, but we're live on Facebook. So you can submit your comments or questions, and I will read them out to Sri Radha Govinda. And yeah, you can continue. Thank you.
Yeah. Toshan, you have anything to add or any questions so far?
Well, I really liked this point that you mentioned, how, I guess it was Queen Kunti, she said that she wants to flow towards Krishna and just flow away from the distractions of her life. And also the other point about that ISKCON or any spiritual organization is like a hospital. So we're all sick in our own different way. And I can relate to it a lot because I work in a hospital and I see only sick people. We only come to the hospital because we want help. But my question is, how do you, as a patient in ISKCON or in a religious organization, protect yourself from getting sick? Or how do you choose the right association? Like, how do you decipher when you walk in and I see someone with some very infectious diseases or other illnesses? How do I decide to protect myself? I know in this time of COVID, we can wear a mask and whatever, but spiritually, how can we protect ourselves from it when we associate, or how do we choose who to associate with? How do we decipher it? Because in ISKCON, in religion, we're always told not to be judgmental, but one second. Screen. I'll just share it again when you're ready. Yeah. So how would you answer that? Sorry.
Oh, wow. Very, very, actually is a very important question. It's a very important consideration to have if we want to advance both materially and spiritually. We come to the hospital, as you said, to get cured. Sometimes people get more wounded by the time, they go out. Something that I've learned from different characters of Mahabharata, Srimad Bhagavatam. Let's take the example of a very awkward situation of Parikshit Maharaj. When Parikshit Maharaj was given this, imagine, you get a patient into the hospital who says, I'm going to die in a week. My life is done. It's like, I'm here to die. This is a patient who really is serious about the goal. He knows, okay, I'm going to die. So So he's not going to get distracted, right? He's not going to
That's
get
true.
put his mind into this or that, and hey, why the hospital is like this, why you didn't give me the right food, why you're not providing with me, or this and that. The mind is not going to go there. The mind is going to focus on, how do I protect my consciousness? I mean, of course, right now we would have to like separate a little bit the analogy of spiritual life and material, taking care of our bodies like that. But when we're talking about protecting our consciousness, one principle that helps me the most, like to summarize in one principle from all these characters of Bhagavatam I've seen, mind your own business. It's it's a message that I actually have it on my mirror. This is something I tell myself every single day. Mind your own business. Why am I here for? Again, remind myself, am I here to try to fix the hospital administration? Am I here to fix other patients? Am I here to tell what other patients should or should not be doing? Am I here to tell the doctors how to do things the right way for me? Just try to mind our business. Of course, some people will say it is my business to try to fix the administration. If that is, it's different, but we have to see our capacity, right? So that's the first thing. Does it really concern you? Or are you just trying to prove that, sometimes, I mean, sometimes I don't mean all of us, but at least some of us may have that tendency. Maybe we feel like a failure in our lives. We couldn't achieve what we wanted to. So we kind of focus on those aspects and we project it. Coming into ISKCON or whatever, we say, no, this is the way things should be. And we put our minds into things that are a waste of time because we are not really in the position to change things. Or like I said, thinking constantly what the men should do, what men should not do. It's just like the men thinking constantly. Some men are like that. They constantly think of what the women should do, what women should not do. Always. Once somebody brought a book, big thick book, called Women Duties of a Woman, Stri Dharma. And so they presented it to my Guru Maharaj, and my Guru Maharaj looked at the book and he said, where is the book for the men? They said, no, there is no book for men. It was only for women. He said, how many copies did you print? 2,000. Take all of these, put it in the Ganges River. Go and see it.
I love it. Okay, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Right? So, yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
It hits a sore point. I mean, but actually, this analogy that you gave about being a patient, if it's really actually good if you think about it in terms of, I don't go to the hospital and see other patients telling other patients how to get better and what to do, and they usually take advice from the doctor or the nurses, and they follow a treatment plan. Someone also asked, how do we as patients strike a balance between the giving and receiving that you mentioned, and how to also between the desire to give and receive, and not to overdo it for either of the two.
That's very important. That's very important. Yeah, so just like you have seen in hospitals, the point is not only we go there to feel better about ourselves, like not only the receiving, because we have to receive properly if we want to recover, we take the right advice, we follow the diet, we do all those things, but there is natural transition. There's a natural like phases where you also start to give feedback, right, to the doctor. You start to express, this is what is happening, this is how I feel the difference. You start to respond to it. So similarly, one of the things in Krishna consciousness is we give when we share, or let me put it in this way, we cannot actually give unless we have something. And it's like that deep ocean down underneath, there's a gem, and it's a wonderful gem, it's going to give you happiness, ultimate happiness. So you go out and you scream to everyone and you say, hey, you know what, under this ocean here, if you just jump deep down here, you'll find this gem, it's so precious, you should go, and there are pearls and there are so many precious things. And the person asks, have you been there? Have you experienced that? Have you do you have it? The person says, no, I've just heard from the acharyas, but I don't have experience of it. It doesn't really maybe touch the person so deeply. That's one side of this answer has two sides, okay? One side is that, what do you want to give? Okay, what is it that we want to give? Is it something we really own? Is it something we are really empowered to do because it's coming deep from our heart? Or is it something, it's a question to ask ourselves, only you can answer for yourself. Or is it some sort of an emptiness we have in our life that we want to go around and wield our power with other people, telling them what they should do, what they should not do? And in that we sense a sort of control that, oh, I am a preacher and I'm telling others what to do. It's a very subtle thing. It's a very subtle thing. Like talking about masculine, feminine, it's a very subtle thing. Out of pride we lead, or out of the attachment to matter, material things, we take care of a family, we are attached to home. There's not much difference, you see. It's all in the motivation. People may say, oh, women are very attached. Women are attached to family, women are attached to kids, women are attached to home. But the same people who may say that may be attached to power, fame, position. So Krishna consciousness is very subtle. So that's one side of it. Do we really have that access to bhakti to give? Second is also in that motivation, if we have that pure motivation or really want to share with people what I know from real, authentic, true authentic place of where I am at. Not from a place like maybe I am here deep under the ground and then I talk like I'm here. And then that difference is what may not really inspire people. So that it really requires a lot of humility to give from a place of authenticity. This is what we can see from Srimad Bhagavatam. We can see the characters of Prithu Maharaj. We can see the character of Bharat Maharaj. We can see the character of our Parikshit Maharaj. We can see even Bali Maharaj, when he was approached by Vamana Dev, that aspect of that humility, that authenticity, that sincerity from where we are at. And even I'm thinking of Ambarish Maharaj, when he was attacked by the Sudarshan Chakra, he didn't say, hey, now you're going to learn your lesson. He didn't say that. He actually just started praying for Durvasa Muni, who cursed him. And Sudarshan Chakra could not harm Ambarish Maharaj. No? I mean, again, maybe we're not getting into all the stories, but the point is again about Ambarish Maharaj was not attached or dependent on the external aspect. So he had that detachment. In detachment, there is freedom. So all these great acharyas have that freedom. And therefore, they preach by example. So my dear ladies, my dear Vaishnavis, my dear friends, we need to redefine what preaching means. We need to redefine what giving means. Because charity begins at home. If we cannot take care of ourselves, if we cannot do justice to ourselves with our own families, with our own children, how can we give to others? Right? So we have to begin with what we have really got in front of us and not try to run away from our real responsibilities. The giving does not have to be the masculine way. Go out there, get the power, get the position, make decisions. Giving can be just by being. That's the power of feminine. Just by being, we can do amazing things. Just by being. In fact, Bali Maharaj's wife, she was a perfect example. Just by being, she said, wait a minute, you gave 2 steps to Vamana Dev. The 3rd step, I think you're holding back something. You're even now you're thinking me and mine. Nanu nannadu emba narakadolage biddu nine gati endu nambida dasana mile. So the point is, when we say I'm a servant, it should be the motivation that I'm a servant. But when we think I am giving, I am preaching, that's actually not the point. So I don't know, maybe I complicated the question for you more, but maybe that's what it should be like. to
No,
go deeper.
I like the answer. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all these points are really important. But I remember before before the online seminar, we spoke about the difference between being independent and being dependent, or rather, in your talk yesterday, you mentioned something. I don't know. I don't want to say. I don't want to. Yes, there you go. Independent. Maybe you can talk about this, or I don't know if you can relate to this. Explain what this undependent means.
You see, in ISKCON, this word independent is misunderstood oftentimes. Oh, don't be independent, depend on your authorities, don't be independent, right? It's like a very independent, she's very independent, it's like a criticism,
Terrible.
right? It's like, don't be independent. You see, she's very independent, and you see how messed up she is because she's independent, she's messed up. This is the way we usually kind of judge people as, oh, this is independent. But the point is, we should be dependent on Krishna. So in that sense, nobody is independent. We are all dependent on Krishna. At the same time, to become undependent, meaning to not become dependent, doesn't mean we have to become independent in that negative understanding of what we paint a picture, because Prabhupada did say that he wanted all the devotees to be independently thoughtful.
Yes.
We don't quote that much. You see that one, that quote, we don't use that. And he also said, he also said that our girls in the movement are more intelligent than the boys. Prabhupada said that, okay? You know that there's a quote, but that we don't quote much. When
Yeah, I mean,
said,
we watched the online retreat and we heard from all the senior Prabhupada disciples, and they shared so many realizations that we'd never heard of, about how Prabhupada respected them and appreciated them and gave them so much important service. And they've done so much. I didn't, coming upon the service of Sadhvi Sangha, I realized how much our senior women Vaishnavis have done for the movement and have done, just making leaps and bounds going forward, and you just don't hear about it.
Yeah,
and it's really sad.
And actually, it's also very it's like that secret. All these great devotees, I'm thinking of Ambrish Maharaj, etc. They were not as famous as until that incident happened. Somebody offended them, and then they later on became famous. I'm even thinking, even currently today in North America, there are like a lot of women leaders who do a lot of the real work. The face is actually the man, but the real work is done by the women. And the beauty is, those women, they don't care if their name is brought up, they're glorified. They don't care. They're just like, no, I'm just doing this service. As long as the movement improves, because of this, we are happy. And I was like, wow, this is what Krishna admires, appreciates. This is what is Krishna consciousness. Oh, the men want the name, fame. Oh, guys, you have it. I just want to give. I want to do service. I want to nurture. So you see, that's actually the power. We're not going to say what they should do, what they should not do, but that ability to feel secure, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And not looking for that, not becoming dependent that the men will validate me, the people around will appreciate me and give me some crown or whatever, right? We expect they will do a Guru Puja for me. They will say, no, instead of Jaya Prabhupada, they'll say Jaya Mataji, you, whatever the name. So, I mean, this is the ego of the mind. The mind wants, if we do a little something in comparison with all these Vaishnavis, what they've done for Prabhupada, and when we do a little something, there is a dependence. That there's a dependence that I want somebody to appreciate me. They should validate me. So we should become undependent from that and become dependent on Krishna. So that's the whole point. And this is the example of all these Panchakanya women. They were not dependent on the circumstance or the husband in absolute term. They were not dependent on the husband in absolute sense. Mandodari was not thinking Ravana is my god. She knew he's my husband, he's a nonsense. She knew. right? So she could discriminate between reality and illusion. So she was undependent from the external circumstances, but she was dependent on the Lord and the Lord's plan. That's like the broad description of undependence, how to become non-dependent.
Yeah. So I was wondering if with the Panchakanya, gosh, I've made so many notes here. It's really good points. I mean, all of this stuff is essential. You spoke last about Queen Kunti. I don't know if you want to go back to the presentation, or we should address the questions from Facebook and YouTube if there is time, because I don't
If you have any questions, otherwise we can go back
a lot of questions. Yeah. Going back to the topic of the patience area, somebody asked on Facebook, what can we do to focus on the person and not on their sickness, as to avoid being judgmental or stereotyping? I think it's a good question, actually.
Can we type that? Yeah, right there. Thank you. Okay. Very good question. Actually, this question shows the sincerity of the person, because that intention, that motivation itself is the first step. I don't want to be judgmental. They have issues, obviously, whatever it is. They have some psychological issues, emotional baggage, just like I do. Everybody has, right? Why should I expect them to be perfect when I'm not perfect? Because if I was perfect, I would be on the level of Kunti Devi. Not complaining, not whining, not saying they should be doing better. Kunti Devi never did that with Duryodhana or Dhritarashtra. She didn't do it, right? So we are also not there. And therefore, actually Bhagavatam gives the answer. Prabhupada is actually speaking, I think it's in the 3rd canto. He says that we all can become understanding or compassionate about other people's situations by looking at our own lives in a very close angle. In other words, we all go through similar situations. Prabhupada is speaking about this very important principle that we may think I have so much difficulties, oh me, oh poor me, I am not good enough, I am not able to please my Guru Maharaj, I haven't done enough service in my life, I wasted so much life. All these things we are feeling, right? But the point is, everybody's feeling that. Everybody is going through that. So we can actually understand other people's situations through ours. And I think Prabhupada mentions the other side of it in the same purport. He says, by seeing our own struggles, we can also understand the struggles of others. You see? So this is like a two-directional principle we can embrace, that we may act out of depression for a situation, and somebody else may be acting with frustration. And so every person has their own way of reacting. We may go into a meeting room. I really like this when we discuss it, because I have that experience. We may go into a meeting room with wonderful ideas, right? And maybe we came from a family which didn't really listen to us enough, although we had wonderful ideas how to save money. Then we walk into this male-dominated administration of ISKCON or whatever. Then we give our ideas, and it's not very welcome. And how we react is obviously not based on that situation, but it's based on what we come from, all the previous baggage. So when somebody comes to us and says something in a rude way, we go and ask somebody, can you please do this service? I have to go and finish my university paper. Can you help me with this particular pujari service today? And the person just looks at you and say, you are so lazy and you just always put things on other people. Why do you do this? I have better things to do. Go away. That's what we take it, but we don't know what happened to that person before we met them. And we don't know what they went through, right? So if we can always put ourselves in their situation, and we can always become compassionate and say, okay, this is a big thing, right? Like Parikshit Maharaj, I'm thinking, how did he react? Do not take it personally. When Parikshit Maharaj we all know the story. When Parikshit Maharaj was in the forest, he was going hunting. He suddenly became very hungry, very thirsty, and then he sees this rishi sitting there, and then he calls him and says, I'm thirsty, give me water. And the rishi is in deep meditation and he doesn't pay attention to him. So Parikshit Maharaj takes a dead snake, puts it on him. Immediately he regrets it. Immediately, as soon as he goes, he says, why did I do this? Immediately he regrets it, right? Then when the son of the rishi curses, Shringi curses Parikshit Maharaj, Shamika Rishi is the father and Shringi is the son. When Shringi curses Parikshit because of what happened to his father, of the dead snake around him, Parikshit doesn't take it personally. He just says, this is the will of the Lord. And he doesn't react. Parikshit Maharaj, we're talking about, Krishna personally went and saved him in this little form inside the womb. Parikshit Maharaj, so powerful. He could have cursed back Shringi like this, but he did not. So when we see somebody sick, spiritually sick, mentally sick, emotionally stuck, we don't put more negativity and cause more delay in their advancement. But like Parikshit Maharaj, we just say destiny. This is destiny, and accept it and not react in a negative way. That's the path of Bhagavatam. To think, how would we like to be treated if we made a mistake, or if we had a sickness? And I think for this, what can help among our Sadhvi Sangha association is to make those close friends. Toshan, you asked me that question even earlier. How do we protect ourselves, and what kind of association we should have? We should, gradually form relationship with those who are very authentic and start revealing our mind, because vulnerability is a big cure. When we are vulnerable, we don't anymore hold on to things. It's easier to let go. But
That's
with the
very
right
interesting.
But with the right people.
Vulnerability is not a desired quality to have, because vulnerability means weakness, and that we get hurt and then we suffer from pain. And a lot of us want to be in a state of constant happiness, but in the material world, we can't be happy. And I appreciate that you said that most of these women that you've chosen about the quintessential is that they've been through some heavy struggle, and that they've come out shining almost, better than before, that they've challenged, that they've valued that aspect of being vulnerable enough to be sort of molded into a better person of themselves, or a better version of themselves. So thank you about this about how to react. I've read many books on how to be successful, and many of them talk about how to control your reaction rather than complaining about the situation, like the circle of influence that we have. We can only control how we react. There's more questions about this. What is the difference between whining and genuinely giving advice when the receiver is a person deciding how they want to take it? Sorry, wait, I lost the question. When the receiver is the person deciding how they want to take it. I don't think, maybe I should paraphrase it. I guess how to look at it in a negative situation and genuinely give advice without I don't know.
Okay, let's take this question like this, if it makes sense to you, Toshani. What is the difference between whining and genuinely taking shelter and asking advice? I mean, that kind of makes sense too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because again, it kind of brings back to what we need to do. Because before we start advising others, first we need to form principles on how we need to act, that helps us.
Yeah.
This is a very... this is the underlining point of what we discussed earlier. Whining would be to focus on, this doesn't work, they didn't do the right thing, they said that to me, she said this to me, taking everything personally. And genuinely being vulnerable, genuinely being able to receive advice from the other person and opening up and saying, my dear mentor, my dear coach, my dear Shiksha Guru, whatever it is, my dear Diksha Guru, I have this particular challenge, I have this particular Maya, I have this illusion, and my mind keeps going back to it, and I keep feeling that negative ego, ruling me, telling me you cannot do it, you're useless, you're unworthy, all this kind of stuff. And I have done this mistake. There is like this list of this is actually Vaishnava culture. All the Goswamis would write, all like Bhaktivinoda Thakur would write, and the Goswamis would write all their wrongdoings, even from the motivation they have. Of course, they didn't really have, but they were trying to show us that we should be vulnerable and open and honest about our own struggles and not to wear a mask. See, wearing a mask causes us to pretend. The mithyachara, as Krishna says, then we become pretenders. But being vulnerable it's being vulnerable helps two sides, right? One side, it helps us. We know that we're not trying to put up a show. So you take less energy. You don't have to remember what I said last time, what I'm trying to impress, and how I'm trying to impress. You're not going to worry about that. And the second thing, it also helps the other person to give us right advice, because they know where we are really at. No?
Mm-hmm.
So, and my experience has been, the more vulnerable we are, instead of whining, if we are genuinely seeking the right advice, we change much faster. But the whining, I've seen people even in their 70s, women in 70s, they're still whining. My father this, my mother that, my son did this, and the temple president never heard me. They go on, and I don't know till when, but oh, this other Mataji, she did this to me. Wow, I realized that age is not going to take this away. I would have to work on myself. Just chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra alone is not going to help us, but we need to also see things in a different way. We need to take help from Maha Mantra to change our thought pattern. So I hope that helps. The difference between whining and genuinely seeking advice lies on the very fact that we want to recognize where we are at, yourself, where we are really at.
Yeah, okay, that's good. A lot of your points mention about actually understanding ourselves and where we are spiritually, and how to respond in a way that's teaching us to grow, I guess. I just want to circle back to when you were talking about, I think we were talking about Parasha Muni, and you were talking about how men and women react emotionally, and the differences based on that. And one of the questions came up is, you mentioned the moon is lovesick. What would you suggest as women keep in mind when we start to act out of lovesickness?
Very good point. See, we all need something to cling to, and that's what means lovesick. We like to cling to something, somebody, some job, usually for women, and until a certain age, is a man. We like to cling to a man emotionally. So that's what means lovesick. We like to be in love, we like to over love, we like to over worry, we like to over stress. That's basically oversick. Just put a lot of that emotional attention. So if we can find the right thing to cling to, the right habit, the right hobby, the right association, the right kind of friend circle, then that'll help us to be on the right bark, you can say. Like, there is going to always be like a support system when we are floating, not floating, swimming across the ocean. So the raft, you can call the raft as the thing that we have to cling to. You better cling to the raft and not to a snake. If you cling to a man who has his own emotional difficulties, he has his own problems, and then you expect him to give you absolute shelter, and you dream about, if we are not married, we usually, right, Toshan, you can confirm, when we are not yet married, we keep fantasizing, oh, when that man will come that I can completely cling to and take shelter in absolute sense, right? We think that man is going to solve all our problems, mental, emotional, psychological, physical, spiritual, intellectual. Am I right? That's called lovesick. That's what is lovesick. And the only person we can depend on in that way is Krishna. Yeah? Okay, so the way to cling to Krishna is the answer to cling to Krishna in different ways and forms. And to cling to Krishna in the form of Bhagavatam is the best.
Okay, I think you answered the next part of her question, which was how do you suggest someone to deal with themselves, emotions, etc., when the love sickness starts? Thank you, Yamuna, for the question.
I think it's all the ego, it's all the ego. Ego
I
that
mean,
thinks I'm entitled for this kind of relation or this kind of man or this kind of experience, and when we don't get it, it drives us crazy. But the moment we accept, like Kunti Devi did, or like Draupadi did, okay, this is what is life, this is what I've got to work with.
I mean, I think I remember you speaking to me before I got married, like years ago, that that each individual, and I think also in your Bhakti marriages, you mentioned that the individual has to understand their own psychology before they even embark on this relationship. Because if you see the other person as being a savior, then that means you feel like you need to be rescued. But in order to be rescued, you have to do the rescuing for yourself. And you said it very nicely. It was something to the effect that your relationship should be two individuals, separate individuals coming together, and it shouldn't be like they are the missing ingredient to your life. That it should be a journey. You can say it better because
No, you said it. You said it. That's what it is. Two healthy individuals form a healthy marriage. Two unhealthy individuals cause problems. And also, every person has a different situation. One size doesn't fit all. One advice that may be relevant to you may not be relevant for Yamuna, and an advice that's relevant for Yamuna may not be relevant for you. So we have to deal with life with what we've got.
True. Okay, so there's more questions coming through. I just don't know which one to start off with. I'll just post it here. Okay.
Toshani, can you get a sense of what the question actually means?
Okay, let me just read it. Okay, it's two parts of the question. Sorry.
You can just read the question. I'm just going to put my computer to charge.
Okay. So the question goes, can I please request some advice on how to deal with the situation when one feels to be right in performing a service over somebody else? How does one reconcile and ensure that the service is done in relation with another Vaishnava and is not spoiled? I guess they're trying to say if they feel right that they are the one to do the service, but they don't want to, I guess, spoil the service by being the one that does it, I guess. Maybe I'm not paraphrasing it well enough.
I mean, maybe even spoil means the ego of the other person.
Yeah, I guess maybe the ego. Yeah, you spoke about this, about the different types of ego, the good ego and the bad ego. Maybe you can emphasize, talk about that. What is the difference between a good ego and a bad ego?
Okay, so in this case, like it seems like there are two parts to this. One is your ego and the other is the other person's ego, whoever is doing the service. Because if the service needs to be done in the right way, we can focus on Krishna and say, I don't really care if he thinks he's right and I'm wrong, as long as the service is done, right? Of course, it's easier said than done. I don't know your particular situation, what you're talking about exactly, because the question is not so clear. But when we're talking about ego, you see, everything is centered around ego in this material world. It's because of that false ego that we came down to this world. We thought, oh, I deserve to enjoy like Krishna. That moment of aha moment that brought us here. Then every now and then we're going through the aha moment, realizing actually it doesn't look like it's a good deal that I left spiritual world and came here. So yeah, to reconcile with another person, it's such a subtle thing. When you say reconcile, is the motivation because what is the motivation to reconcile? That's the first question. So that the service continues very nicely, that's a very good motivation. But sometimes we just want to reconcile because we cannot tolerate differences. I've heard some people say something like, even yesterday, I heard one person saying, oh, devotees should come together and do a meeting and everybody should have the same idea. You cannot have different ideas. No diversity allowed. Devotees means everybody should think the same, everybody should come to the same conclusion. So sometimes when we say, Toshani, you should cooperate with me, what I actually mean is, Toshani, you should listen to what I'm saying and do what I'm saying. Right?
Yes.
And when I say, Toshani, you need to understand me, what I actually mean is that you need to stand under me. So that's the language of the ego. The ego always thinks, you need to understand me. I'm here, you need to understand me. And you need to cooperate with me means you have to follow what I'm saying. Then we talk a lot. We say we say that, right? That's the mentality. Hey, why don't we cooperate? Why don't we cooperate? What we really mean is you cooperate with me. So that's where the ego comes and plays all sorts of games. What do we really want? We want the other person to do what we want. All these things, we have to make a list of wrongdoings or wrong intentions, wrong motivations. What is the jealousy part here? Where are we envious? Where are we really sincere? Where are we really willing to let go? This is a moral inventory, very sincere, authentic moral inventory we can take about our own motivations. And then on the other side, sometimes some people may be really difficult to work with. And the ego has to accept that I can never really work in a peaceful manner with this person because this person is not so reasonable. Sometimes happens. We just get people who are very unreasonable. So to make peace and say, the ego, you have to calm down your ego and say, I can't work with everyone. I can't make peace with everyone. So accept that and move on. I think the biggest secret is not to put your mind too much into these things. Mind your own business, do what you need to do, get moving. To not become too identified with what people are saying or doing. And so the negative and the false ego, the ego and the good ego and the bad ego. So the negative ego is what pulls us down. It keeps telling you're not good enough, you're not beautiful, you're not smart, you're not this, you're not that. Whatever emphasizes that is the negative ego. And whatever emphasizes the fact that I'm a very precious servant of Krishna, I am a spirit soul, I'm spark of Krishna, I am meant to be happy, so I'm going to choose right things in my life. That's the good ego.
Thank you. I mean, we're always told that the ego is like a bad thing and we have to smash our ego. But I like these points about the negative ego and the positive ego, how to see it in a good light. So let's see what other questions.
Because if you destroy the ego, then you can't destroy, because we are the soul. That's our identity. We cannot destroy our identity. That's kind of Mayavada philosophy. But the false ego is what we have to destroy. To think that I'm the body and what you think about me is what I am, all that is the false ego.
Okay. Let's see. I think maybe we can do one more question. Hare Krishna, as depending upon Krishna as the solution, can you please suggest how to develop our relationship with Krishna as after some years of practice, complacency creeps in?
Yeah, complacency is like sometimes we take things for granted. In the beginning, now we are looking forward. Oh, today what Krishna is going to show me and how he's going to reveal. And then slowly we start getting absorbed into. They say when we're chanting Hare Krishna, we could either be watering the Bhakti Lata Beej, the seed of devotion, or we could be watering the anarthas, me and the mine, and oh, my name, and I did this service, I am this, I am that, this is mine, this is my service. Then we can get identified with those false sense of I. So how we can develop our relationship is, first thing is association, being with people who are focused on that path of authenticity, of getting close to Krishna. Bhagavatam is the person Bhagavatam first, then the book Bhagavatam second. To every day read Bhagavatam, meditate on the personalities of Bhagavatam, at least listen, even if you don't read it, even skip a day. But reading Bhagavatam becomes, you remember the Yamuna's question when she was asking about what do we do about this lovesick thing? What happens when we put our attention into Bhagavatam is that anytime the mind freaks out, goes crazy, and then even no matter how much we say, snap out of this depression, snap out of it, nothing helps. The only thing is the message of Bhagavatam. Because Krishne swabdhamo pagate dharma jnanadibhi saha kalo nashtam drisham mesha puranarko adhunodita. So Srimad Bhagavatam, after Krishna left this world, like a sun, it has arisen to dispel the darkness of this mind, of the world, and it has come to give us that light. So this Bhagavatam is that Purana which gives us the light to see the right direction, to develop that Krishna relationship with Krishna. We need to see the path. So Bhagavatam shows us that path. And the devotees in Bhagavatam show us how awkward situations they go through, whether it's Parikshit Maharaj, whether it's Draupadi, whether it's Devahuti. I'm mixing all the names, male, female, because we have so many female characters as well, although it's not emphasized. They had so many awkward situations, just like us. We also have so many awkward situations. But the fact is, in those awkward situations, as long as we have the light of Bhagavatam, we will never go wrong. Even the difficult circumstances, even our mistakes, Krishna will always protect us and save us. So that's the way we can develop the relationship. Book Bhagavatam.
Thank you for the question. Sorry?
I said the book Bhagavatam and the person Bhagavatam.
Thank you so much, Sri Radha. I just wanted to ask, because we're coming to the end of the session, if there's one point or one advice that you could give to the listeners about what QueenTessential is, or from QueenTessential, if you could emphasize a point or advice, yeah.
To put faith on the higher self. We all have higher self and lower self. To put faith on your higher self more than you put on what people tell you to do or what your mind says, but put faith in your higher self and starve your lower self. Don't heed to all those negative things that the lower self tells you. You're a bad devotee, you're not good chanting, you're not good enough. Don't listen to the lower self, and to encourage the higher self, because that's the only person that you can really trust, because Paramatma is the higher self in your heart.
Sorry.
And I also want to say, Toshani, you're a great speaker. You're such great in getting questions out and interviewing and interacting, and it was so much fun. I really admired your skills at hosting events and interviewing. Well done.
Thank you. I mean, I'm not used to it. We had some, some practice with the online Vaishnavi retreat. It was really great service to do, and I'm so glad to have the opportunity to actually speak to you about these topics. I mean, we could speak on and on about everything you've ever done. I mean, you're just such a wide and vast person. You have so much experience in all these topics of psychology, Vedic astrology. I mean, I'm really excited to see what you have with this QueenTessential project. Maybe when you post the blog, we can add it to our description about it, or the seminars that you've done. The people that missed it on Facebook, I just want to just show you the website from Sri Radha Govinda and her books that she's done. If you can look here, this is her website, the MAPS website. And she's got many links that you can also go onto. The link is on the description, astrogitamaps108.wordpress.com. And this is the books that we're looking at. As I said, the books are You Ready for Saturn? And my favorite, How to Mess Up Your Life with Astrology, Awaken Your Spiritual Destiny. And then the last few books, I think there's one book missing, The Wild Side Inside, which is going beyond the influence of Rahu and Ketu. And based on the Bhakti marriage website, she's also written a book about getting ready for married life. And I can just show you also the links that we have for her YouTube. You can see she's had experience in all these topics about I mustn't go into the wrong website. This one, oops, this is the wrong one, Krishna. Let me find it. Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us today. I mean, I hope we can in the future do another, I guess, stream about QueenTessential and any other topics that the Vaishnavis that are listening, that they're interested in. There we go, Bhakti marriage. This website is about Bhakti marriage system and everything about premarital counseling and what to do before you get married. I found it very interesting. You can subscribe. The links are all on Facebook and on our Sadhvi Sangha page. So thank you again. If you have any questions for Sri Radha Govinda, you can submit it on this link, on the YouTube link and on the Facebook link, and we can submit it to her and she will answer it individually. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Darshani. Thank you, everybody, for watching. All the best. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.